98 Not Out, sponsored by Shepherd Neame, proud supporters of cricket in Essex.
So I'm really pleased to say, joining us now, live on the line, ex-England wicket-keeper and now brilliant artist as well, Mr. Jack Russell. Jack, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing, lads? You okay?
Yeah, we're good. Can you hear us nice and clear?
Yeah, no problem.
You're
Excellent.
coming through clear as a bell. Very, very good.
It's almost like we know what we're doing. It's brilliant.
I'm assuming you're on a landline, Jack, are you?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Yeah, that makes all the difference. We have so many people that we talk to on a mobile phone and...
well, I'm not very good with mobiles, so I don't use the phone too often, so I'm a bit archaic, but there you go.
Can we wish you happy birthday for later? Is it Saturday, your birthday?
It is, yeah, well remembered, yeah. I keep forgetting about it, but people remind me, so that's very kind of you, thank you.
You got anything special planned, or is it just quiet?
No, I'll be painting something, so I'll be working that day, so, well, I call it work, I'll just be painting, now that the cricket's come back, actually, to club level as well. I'm out and about in the country painting cricket grounds ready for next year's exhibition, so I'm busy with that.
And where have you been painting? Anywhere nice?
Well, I've done most of the main grounds. I mean, I've done all the county grounds, a lot of the test grounds. I've just finished the Ashes from last summer, so there's 5 more test grounds that I've done, which was great fun because I sort of pressurised myself into painting the first ball of every test. Which was an intriguing challenge in terms of detail because you've got to get everything spot on. You know, the fielders have got to be in the right place. Even the spectators have got to be in the right place, cameramen and that sort of thing. So I've really enjoyed that. But they're quite big pictures, and it's taken me just about a year to get those done. And probably the most detailed cricket pictures I've ever painted. So I've really enjoyed doing that. I mean, I've even got things, so much detail. I've even got things like Stuart Broad's studs on his boots, you know. I've gone into that much detail, so I've enjoyed doing that. It's been great fun, and I'm just in the process of painting the World Cup from last year as well. So
where can
I was lucky enough to be at that game. So I'm really busy. But I'm trying to get, because I've done most of the county grounds and the main grounds, I'm trying to get to those quintessential English cricket grounds, like the village grounds and that, which are, you know, typically English, and enjoying those. And it's been some interesting stuff.
Talking of picturesque places being used, Arundel's being used this year. I don't know if you've managed to paint there yet. Yeah,
I did Arundel last year. That's in our exhibition at Chris Beatles at the moment in central London. They've got the Arundel one down there. So one of my favourite grounds, actually. I mean, I did a book on all the grounds that I played at for Gloucestershire, thinking there'd be about 30-odd paintings. Ended up 70-odd pictures.
Wow.
So I had a great time doing that a few years ago, and Arundel was, although I didn't technically play there for Gloucestershire, I played there for the Duchess of Norfolk's 11 back in the 80s against the West Indies, so my artistic licence came to the fore, and I thought I've got to put it in, because Arundel was just one of the great cricket grounds, really.
Picture postcard. If people want to look at these, where is the best place for them to go and have a look, and if they want to buy them, can they buy them?
Yeah, if we've just got the Ashes come out, so if people go to I'm on Twitter anyway, at Jack Russell Art, so people can log into me there. But if people just Google me and put in Jack Russell Gallery, they'll see all the pictures there, and they'll just go to our website and they'll see what I've been up to lately and all the pictures that I've been painting. And as I said, all the Ashes ones are out now. We've got a limited edition print on each picture, so they're available now. But unfortunately, the 5 of the 7, because I ended up painting. It's called the Ashes Collection. I ended up painting the ladies' test down at Taunton. I thought, well, I haven't done the ladies' game. I need to do that. And I went down to zoom down to Taunton one day and painted the first ball of that game. And then Stokesy did what Stokesy did at Headingley, so I ended up having to paint Ben Stokesy in the winning runs for the Headingley one as well. So there's actually 2 Headingleys. There's the first ball, and then there's Stokesy hitting the winning run. And luckily 5 of the 7 of the big pictures have already sold. So, but the prints are available, so if people want to just get in touch with me, they can email me or just give us a ring at the gallery, or just look at the website, where you can order on the website, so that's no problem.
How do you do it when you say, like, I'm doing the first ball? Do you take a photograph and then work from that, or? Well,
yeah, it's you've got to take photographs because you just can't bash it all in one go, because the pictures. I painted it every first day of every test. So counters were brilliant to me, and they set me up probably in the best seat in the house of each test match, and I put my canvas up, and I started what I call a small one, like a colour note, just to get some colour references. Then I take photographs as well, make a few notes, and then I put all that together and do a large one. And these pictures are around about sort of 4.5 feet each.
Oh, they're
by
really
about 3
spectacular.
foot. So they're quite big pictures, the finished ones. So, but with health and safety and everything, you can't do that at the cricket ground. So I just take a smaller canvas, get the colours right, because I need to get the weather right at that particular time, the atmosphere, and obviously the detail and the light and everything. So, there's a lot of reference that goes into building the bigger picture. But I had such a great time. I actually felt sometimes I wanted to jump over the boundary and join in. It was that such good fun. I was that wound up again with the Aussies in town, but it was great fun painting. I had a great time.
Have you had a chance to do one of these COVID tests, just for, in years to come? That might be something that people will look
No, I should do them. I should. I know one or two people that help serve in that, the key workers and that. So I should grab one of them at some point and do something, because those people are just unbelievable, aren't they? They need to be recorded and well looked after. They're just top people. I think we'd have struggled without them, wouldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. Are there other people that are doing this? Do you find if you go down to a big test match that there are other artists there, sort of groups around trying to...
No, not really. I think I'm the first artist that has painted a series of the first ball of every Ashes test. I've not seen another artist do that. There's a couple of ex-players that used to... Peter Martin, from Lancashire, I used to tour with. He painted for a while. And young Martin Spate, who was at Sussex and went to Durham, he's now at Sedbergh School, I think. He used to paint for a bit, but I think I'm the only one. I think Carberry from Hampshire started to draw a bit.
Yes,
do
we
a
had
little
him on
bit.
last week.
Yeah, Carbs is good. I've seen some. He's brilliant. Michael Carberry's fantastic.
He's done
So
it quite
hopefully,
well.
he's just at the start of his artistic career. I'm sure he's got a great career in front of him, because he's very good.
He's done a lot of work, and it's not just something he's just having a stab at. He takes it very, very seriously. And he was telling us about artists that he's referencing from and getting in touch with, and developing his own technique. But yeah, some of the stuff is really quite amazing.
Yeah, you have to dedicate yourself, really. I mean, I'm a bit obsessed with it now, like I was keeping Wicket. I just sort of, I think my wife felt when I retired she might see a bit more of me, but I'm just basically, nothing's changed really in our marriage, because I'm just focused on my painting. So, I paint all day, every day now, basically. So if I go a day without painting, lads, I get a bit itchy, and I get a bit irritable. So I've been painting now for just over 30 years. So I've actually been doing it longer than I play cricket for. So it is a profession, and Carbs will find out that he's got to. If he wants to make a go of it, you've got to put it's like playing, like anything really, but it's like playing sport. You've got to put the time and effort in to get the rewards. I'm sure he will, because he's a talented boy.
Yeah. So talking about your cricket career, let's turn the clock back 30 or 40 years, and some memorable things that I think people will jog the memory. And now you've already mentioned the Ashes, and you particularly enjoyed going up against our old friends from down under, and they went after you in the early days, didn't they? They thought that you were susceptible to a bit of chin music and some smart comments from the close fielders, but you put them straight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Well, I'll tell you what happened there was we played at Headingley, and this is 1989. I did play my first test the year before, 88, against Sri Lanka at Lords. I mean, that's the greatest place in the world to make a test debut. I can still remember running out behind Graham Gooch with 3 lines on my chest. It was one of those proud moments. I should have got 100, actually, because I got 90 odd, and I gave my wicket away, because I'd never scored 90 before in my life in first-class cricket, so I blew it there. But the following year was the Ashes 89, and what happened at Headingley, we got smashed at Headingley. They got about 1 million, they got 600 and something. It's funny, that series, I always remember that series. We used to, if we lost the toss, it was basically you were fielding from Thursday morning to Football Focus on Saturday lunchtime. That was basically you were setting yourself for 2 and a bit days in the field. Having only played 3-day cricket and never spent more than a day in the field in my life, it was quite an education. But what happened was at Headingley we got bowled over, and I didn't get hit or anything. It's just I got 2 low scores, 15 and 2 or something, not many. I didn't get bounced out. They didn't even bounce quick to me then. But what happened was it was Richie Bennett written a piece in the paper about how the Aussies were going to bounce me at Lords, and they were going to make my life a misery, and they were going to bowl me a lot of chin music, as you call it, and mainly that was Merv Hughes. And in those days, you used to turn up the day before, the lunchtime before, have a net, have a team meeting on the evening, and then crack on. It's not this 3 or 4 day build-up you have these days.
Yeah.
So we used to just turn, and on the afternoon before the test, I'd read this article, and I said to Alan Knott, who was helping with my wicket-keeping then, I said, look, because he was a great player, quick bowling. And one of the great players, against like Lillian Thompson and those guys. And he sort of said, well, let's get the youngsters at the MCC bowling in the nets off 18 yards with rubber balls, and we'll come up with a plan. And so I think I was nearly late for the team meeting at 7 o'clock. I was in the nets for hours and hours and hours. And luckily the next day, and it was in that period where you knew that if you had 2 bad test matches, your career was over. Basically, you were out. Because I think we used about 30-odd players that summer. It was like absolute carnage it was.
Was that the summer of lots of captains as well?
Sorry?
Was that the summer of lots of captains as well?
No, that was the summer before. This was the summer of just lots of players. The test match was a different team. But I remember, and then we were in trouble a bit the next day, and I went out to bat at number 8, and I knew that this was it. This was like do or die. And so I put bat to ball a bit, got away with it, and dealt with. I knew Merv was going to bounce me, so I hooked him and cut him over the slips a few times. And Dickie was umpiring at the pavilion end, and Merv used to abuse me, and I was at the non-strikers end. I wasn't even facing. And I remember saying to him, I said, and I'd had enough of this for up about, and I got a few, and I'd had enough, and I just turned around and said, as he walked past, I won't swear, but I said, look, Merv, you big fat, what's it? Just sod off and go back and bowl. Let's get out and get on with it, And Dickie started panicking. Dickie's arms were going everywhere. He thought there was going to be a fight, But that was one of the most important things. And I managed to get 100 later in the series, and people were going about the 100 at Old Trafford. But to be honest with you, without the 64 not out at Lord's that year, I probably wouldn't have got to the Old Trafford Test. So, and there's nothing like, you can't beat playing well at Lord's. It's the greatest place on earth.
Was you the first wicket keeper that sort of fell into this, we need to pick someone who can bat a bit better than just be a wicket keeper? Because as a wicket keeper, you were obviously absolutely outstanding. But you had this thing with Alex Stewart, didn't you, where they'd play Alex because they felt his batting was stronger.
Well, his batting was stronger because he was a top player, and he averaged 40 in tests. Stewie, he's top class. But that wasn't the first time. It happened in the 60s a bit with Jim Parks and J.T. Murray at Middlesex and those types of people. So it happened a little bit before then. Jack Richards a bit before me with Bruce French. Jack was a good bat, played at Surrey. French, he would bat lower down. So that sort of, it happened a little bit before, but I think what the crux of it was, early 90s, Surrey and Botham decided to retire. And we were sort of like struggling for an all-rounder, and it was just a case of trying to fit some square pegs into some round holes and trying to fill his boots in some format. And if we were down in a series and we had to play an extra bowler, then there's not many times I played the Oval Test, I can tell you. By the end of the summer, I was on the sidelines.
One of your innings, which I remember, but I think for the most part is overshadowed, and I think people forget when you scored 29 runs off 235 balls over a period of 4 hours and 34 minutes. And if people are thinking, when did he do that? If I then sort of widen the perspective a little bit, it was part of a 119-run partnership with Michael Atherton at Johannesburg in 1995. That very, very famous innings from Athers. But I think people are forgetting the astonishing contribution you made to that.
Well, I'll be honest with you, there's two things that people ask me every time. There's two questions that I always get asked. One is, have you still got the hat? Which the answer is yes, because it's my most prized possession, and my wife and my kids know that. So it's like I know where that is 24 hours a day, otherwise I have a panic attack. So I had that hat my first day as a professional cricketer. And it's been rebuilt a few times, and it's been burnt in all sorts of
I was
stories. We did an hour to go through the story. There's a book on its own on the hat. But and then the other thing they mentioned to me is Johannesburg in '95, and I said they always say well played and that. But the thing is, I just batted basically most of the one day. Athers batted 2. He got 180 not out, so he did most of it. But we were up against it a bit because I got in first morning, I don't know what it was, sometime before lunch, and I thought, well, and when I walked to the wicket, because I remember that Johannesburg is like a bull ring, so you wander down, there's a tin roof, And so all the crowd, they bash on the tin roof. So by the time you get to the wicket, you're deaf. Right? You can't hear anything. And I looked into Athers's eyes. I thought, he's going to do this. This guy is going to do this. And somebody just pulled a finger out and stay with him. And I just didn't want to let him down, really. That was the motivation. And I thought, and you mentioned the 29. I actually haven't got a clue how I got to 29 because honestly, my target was 0 not out. End of play, 0 not out. That is the target. And so I just blocked the first ball, and then I blocked the second ball, and then I kept blocking balls, and then so many hours later, four and a half, whatever it is, hours later, that I still managed to be in. I remember Darryl Hare was the umpire, and I was in such a zone, mentally, that I didn't want to let Athers down, and the series was 0-0 at that point, so we'd have gone 1-0 down, so it was important we didn't lose the game. And he took the bails off for the end of play, and I nearly said to him, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing? Because me and Athers are going to bat here for a week. Do you know what I mean? I was getting like angry with everybody and just motivated. But yeah, people mention that most days, so it's great. One of those. I mean, Athers did most of it, but it was just nice to be a part of it.
You was man of the match in that test, wasn't you? Got 11 victims or 12 victims?
Yeah, well,
in the
it's
test
funny because I always apologise to Athers because we were joint man of the match, and he should have been man of the match really. But because I got the world record in our fielding, 2 fielding innings, which was the world dismissals record for dismissals in a test match. And obviously I scored, hung around on the last day. They sort of gave it to both of us, and every time I see Athers, I go, sorry Athers, sorry about that. I hope you, because he should have been man of the match really. And the record, this is interesting, the record I took was off of Bob Taylor. Who used to, the great Bob Taylor, one of the Graham's, brilliant keeper. I modelled myself a little bit on him because his technique was just so pure. And the first person because Bob was on the ground at the time, the first person in the change room who came and shook my hand was Bob Taylor. I thought that was so nice of him to do that.
You mentioned about the old Johannesburg ground and the tin roof, and probably with your cricketing head on and your artist head on, do you kind of rue the passing of older grounds, particularly in the Caribbean, where those old ramshackle grounds have been replaced by stadia? I know it's gone on all over the world, but if you were touring international cricketers, going to some of these places... I did paint some of them when we had some great wins, in Jamaica in 1990. We won in Barbados 94 when Stewie got... his 200s, and those grounds were like, they've changed so much and they're a bit more like concrete now. Oh, they're horrible.
And to be fair, actually a lot of the county grounds have changed as well. So I was lucky enough to play in that era. When I did the book, I thought, I painted the pictures that were sort of back in time a little bit and not sort of at the concrete stadiums we see now. And I think the Caribbean, because if you went there and played at that time, at the end of the day, basically you were deaf. Because the noise, the music, the enthusiasm for cricket is like, and the atmosphere in those grounds, because a lot of them are quite small and a bit ramshackle. I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion. I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
They were just so intimidating and very atmospheric. And there was no other. You could play anywhere else in the world you like. There was nowhere like playing in the West Indies. I know it was a tough place to tour, and I had 3 tours there, but I used to love playing there because, first of all, you're going to be in a fight and a battle. But the grounds had so much atmosphere, and I was lucky enough to paint 1 or 2, but I just loved every minute. And the grounds now, they're not quite the same. So, then the great thing about playing well in the West Indies, if you did well, the locals came and patted you on the back. They really appreciated good cricket. They just loved good cricket. I know they were passionate about their own team, but if you did well against them, then they appreciated it.
You had those characters like Gravy.
Oh, I can still see him. I can still hear him with that ghetto blaster, that loud music. That stand used to bat, right, and the wickets used to vibrate. I'm telling you, from the sound and the ground, that stand used to bounce up and down. And that stand stood up for all those years. I'll never know. Yeah, great characters, great place to play.
So for younger listeners that may not know who we're talking about, Gravy was a fixture at Trinidad. Was he at Trinidad?
It was Antigua.
Oh, Antigua. Apologies.
Yeah.
And he would wear outlandish outfits and a different one every day. Sometimes he'd come in drag, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Did I see him in a wedding gown once?
Yeah, but what he used to do, he used to hang from the stand like one hand. And I mean, health and safety would be arrested now. But But he was like, if he ever fell down, he'd kill himself because he was so high up in the stand. It was great. Oh, yeah, he used to spend half the time watching the spectators. It was brilliant.
Something else we've got to talk about, because I think every player that ever mentions it with you is some of your quirkiness of when you was on tours and things like that. You've mentioned the sun hat already, but you had a pair of gloves that you always wanted to keep in as well. And
Brett, I deny it all. I'm just gonna, even though it's true, I deny it all. Yeah, no, I'm a little bit. I don't like change, as you can probably see greatly, and I just like to. I mean, they're eccentric things to other people. To me, they were like normal.
Yeah.
So, which is probably like the alcoholic saying that he's all right, he can handle the drink. It's sort of like a bit. Maybe I should go to Eccentrics Anonymous or something. But some of the things that people always mention are things like the Weetabix for 15 minutes. And I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I retired, all the 12 men around the country cheered because they had to do the Weetabix 15 minutes before lunch, so I had to soak because I didn't like
8
crunchy
minutes, is it?
Weetabix. The gloves, I had 2 pairs of gloves basically for 20 odd years. One pair I left with a young kid in New Zealand in the early 80s, and I got them back off him late 90s, and they saw me through to the end of my career. So yeah, no, it's sort of I don't know if even the hat. I wouldn't say the hat was superstition. It was more a comfort thing.
What about the tea drinking?
Sorry.
The tea drinking.
Yeah, that's probably an addiction, I would think. I mean, I don't have strong tea, luckily, and I've now gone on to decaf tea, and after all these years, now I can sleep properly, which is like, I should have done it all those years ago, but it's just habits, really, and yeah, just like to use the same kit, you know.
Yeah, I think, sort of reading through all this stuff, I'm not sure I'd say it's necessarily eccentric. You just seem to me to be a creature of habit, that, like going out and having steak and chips in the evening. Now,
habit's a good word. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When we were in India once, I had buffalo steak and chips 29 consecutive nights because they weren't making me ill, so I couldn't afford to be ill. They are habits. Yeah, I'm a creature of habit. That's probably a fair comment.
That's the way I'd look at it.
Yeah, I agree. We'll agree on that.
Now, I read something else which was interesting. Now, tell me, is it true that after your death you want your hands to be amputated and placed in formaldehyde? Sort of Damien Hirst style, I suppose.
Well, maybe I'll have to get Damien to do it because I can't find anybody that wants to. My wife won't do it. It's probably not even legal. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to... I really should put something down in writing because I don't know. I just thought I'd have my hands... I don't mind if there's all the skin's taken off and they just leave the bones. That'll be fine. Put them in a glass cabinet and then we'll put them in the gallery with all my pictures, and then people can come and stare at my hands as well as the paintings. And then maybe that's a bit eccentric. I'll take that on the chin.
Jack, one final thing. One-day cricket. You were one of these keepers that sort of suddenly stood up in one-day cricket and changed maybe the way keepers play in one-day cricket. Is that sort of fairly? Is that a thinking thing?
That's very kind of you to say that. I mean, that was towards the end of my career, and I always say to people, it was easier stood up all the time than having to run up and down all the time from stood back. But to be honest with you, it was a tactical thing that we did at Gloucestershire, and because you had things like pinch hitters come in, and you had fielding restrictions and that sort of thing. The guys were running down the pitch. So I'll be honest with you, in the first, I might stand back for a couple of overs each end, and then stand up, and that way the bowler could have got more chance for an RBW. I used to like it if we had a first slip as well. Martin Ball used to do first slip. Best first slip I ever had. So if anybody nicked it past me, there was a catcher there. That was always important. And it was just part of that. We used to create an inner ring there of trying to squeeze the batsman. So it was just nice towards the end of my career where we were winning trophies. And you've got to remember, I went sort of 20 years virtually without getting a sniff of anything. And managed to pick up a few trophies, winners' medals at the end. So it was towards the end of my career, but I had a ball doing it. I had a time of my life, and I think it also because John Bracewell was the coach and Mark Elaine was the captain. They encouraged me to do it, and I think my keeping went to another level. Even though I'd been playing for England, it spurred me on to go to heights that I hadn't been before. So, I was chuffed to be part of that successful period and had a great time doing it.
Jack, thank you very much for your time. One final question.
Yep.
If you had a chance to paint one more ground in the world, where would you like to paint that you haven't painted?
Oh my God, Joe. Well, I've painted some, but I'd like to paint them again, probably. Let me think. That is so difficult because there are so many great grounds out there. I'll be honest with you, I do love the two pavilions at Sydney because the greens are slightly different.
Yeah.
So, I've done an Ashes series here, even though they're like slightly concrete grounds. Adelaide's quite nice still. I would go to Oz and I would paint, and my favourite ground would be to paint the two pavilions that are still standing at Sydney, because they're like a part of the past. They're the first things were there like back in the 1800s. So I'd love to do that, because and also the challenge of getting the slightly different green roofs, which is a technical artist thing, but I won't bore you in the details.
Jack, thank you very much for your time. Indeed, it's been great talking to you.
And we'll put all the details of your galleries and where people can view your stuff, and if they want to buy a print. And I'm sure you can arrange for signed copies for a cherry on top. Then we shall put all that stuff on our social media, and hopefully people can take a look.
Brilliant, lads. It's been great talking to you.
Jack, thanks for your time.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Many thanks.
Bye.